Thanks for watching the video. This is Pascal for EMP Reviews. This is an analysis of Neon Genesis Evangelion. The first part will be short summaries of the episodes of the original series, and then the review and exploration of the story will begin at the time posted here. That part will be done with John Gutierrez and I. Neon Genesis Evangelion, or Shinseiki Evangelion, which literally means the Gospel of the New Century, is a Japanese mecha anime television series produced by Gainax and Tatsunoko Production, directed by Hideaki Anno and broadcast on TV Tokyo from October 1995 to March 1996. The third Angel Satchel attacks Tokyo 3, and Commando Gendo Ikari is appointed control of the operation against all Angel invasions. Shinji agrees to operate Unit 01, in spite of how absurd the idea seems, and to fight this first invader. Gendo discusses with members of SEAL how the appearance of an angel at this time is much earlier than expected. Thus, they decide to move the instrumentality project earlier than planned. The events of Shinji's first battle show Eva Unit 1 going berserk, attacking Satchel, causing the angel to self-destruct, and revealing Unit 1's true appearance, shocking Shinji. Between learning to operate Unit 1 and being a new student at school, Shinji is uninvolved and depressed. His classmate Toji assaults him when he discovers that he piloted Unit 1 against Satchel, the battle that resulted in his sister being hospitalized. The fourth angel Shamshell appears and is ultimately killed by an unhinged Shinji controlling Unit 1 with very little power remaining and disobeying Misato's orders to retreat. Shinji runs away from his new home to be alone and experiences what appears to be a panic attack. When he finally returns, he responds to the scolding by Misato for disobeying her orders during the last battle by audaciously declaring that not only did he win the fight, but that he's the only option they have as a pilot. He eventually decides to leave the entire operation, has a bout where he describes himself with a slew of self-deprecating labels, but ultimately decides to stay. 22 days before the start of the main events in the episodes, Unit 0's activation results with it going berserk. Rei's entry plug is ejected, severely injuring her. In the present time, Ritsuko determines Shamshell's remains have a composition very similar to that of humans. Later, a second launch for Unit 0 proves to be successful. The fifth angel Ramiel appears and immediately fires on Unit 1 when Shinji brings it forward, resulting in extremely high temperatures for his entry plug. Unit 1 is taken underground and the unconscious Shinji is rescued. Later, Misato and the Magi computer devise Operation Yashima, a plan for the then finally awakened Shinji and Unit 1 to fire a sniper weapon from far away. The special SDF rifle needs all of Japan's electricity for power. Meanwhile, Ramiel drills down towards NERV headquarters. After 2 shots, Unit 1 successfully destroys the angel. The second strike was only possible due to Rei and her unit protecting Shinji from one of the angel's countering blasts. Rei and her unit barely survives the discharge. Ritsuko describes to Shinji that the second impact was not caused by a meteorite, as was reported. She describes to him that at the time of the event, the first angel was discovered in that Antarctica area, and for unknown reasons an enormous explosion occurred. The purpose of NERV and the Evas is to prevent a similar occurrence, a third impact. Misato and Ritsuko and many others are presented the Jet-Alone robot, also designed to combat angels. During the demonstration, it appears to malfunction, walking aimlessly with an unstable reactor, supposedly ready to explode. It's eventually revealed that Ritsuko and Gendo knew this demonstration would fail but did not anticipate Shinji's and Misato's efforts to prevent the eruption. On a trip at sea, Asuka and Kaji make their first appearance. Asuka is immediately aggressive towards Shinji and Toji, and Kaji's unannounced planned presence surprises Misato due to her complicated history with him. The sixth angel Gahiel attacks the ship from beneath and at the surface of the ocean. Kaji leaves with his cargo, and eventually the angel drags Unit 02 underwater. The military along with Misato set a trap for the angel, defeating the creature. Kaji delivers his cargo to Gendo. It is Adam in an embryo state, Gahiel's actual target during its attack. The seventh angel, Israfel, appears. Asuka's initial attack, which cuts it in half, results in two Israfel angels. The duo easily defeat Units 1 and 02. Sometime later, Asuka moves in with Shinji and Misato. To their disdain, Asuka and Shinji must train together to better sync during the next confrontation with the angels. Meanwhile, things get complicated between Misato, Ritsuko, and Kaji. The training proves successful with the combined efforts to defeat the two angels, but the damage to the units is just as embarrassing as it was in the first round, prompting the two pilots to argue a second time. Using a probe, NERV detects the 8th angel Sandalphon in its embryonic state in an active volcano. With a special bodysuit for Asuka and a special protective layer for Unit 02, she attempts to collect the angel. It wakes and immediately attacks 02. Asuka eventually kills the creature with a knife given to her by Shinji right in the nick of time. Unit 1 also saves her, as the battle caused enough damage to break the cable holding her unit. A power outage immobilizes NERV headquarters. The Japanese Strategic Self-Defense Force detects the 9th angel Matarael, but cannot inform NERV since their systems are down. First Lieutenant Hyuga forcibly drives into NERV and verbally informs the crew about the angel. Gendo and a team manually prep the units for battle while all three pilots are making their way to the headquarters in the dark. The units eventually launch, cooperatively outmaneuver a liquid solution discharged by Matarael designed to invade NERV and then kill it. In Antarctica in the year 2000, Misato's father, Dr. Katsuragi, sacrifices himself to save her. The second impact occurs, killing him and many more, and Adam is seen active. Misato's motivations for joining NERV is to avenge her father's death. Back in the present, Misato achieves the rank of Major. Again, in Antarctica, Commando Fuyutsuki and Gendo look at the remains of the area and the effects of the impact. Commander Fuyutsuki sees this as punishment for scientific arrogance, while Gendo describes human purification. The 10th angel Sahakiel appears in orbit and begins maneuvering to land on Earth. Misato orders the Evas to position themselves at the determined arrival point, and the three together defeat the angel. Ritsuko reveals that it was her mother Naoko and not her that designed the Magi computer. During a test with the pilots, NERV walls are infiltrated by a corrosive agent, which eventually generates a dangerous amount of heat. An AT field occurs, revealing that the invasion is the 11th angel Iriel, which reaches one of the three components of the machine. Ritsuko inserts a software of self-destruction into the system, a tactic that proves successful in eradicating the virus, returning the Magi back to normal. The first half of the episode summarizes all of the events of the series. The second half starts with Rei's observation of nature, the LCL substance, Tokyo 3, the Evas, her existence, and the origins of humanity. Later, as a test, the pilots switch units. Shinji eventually loses his concentration, causing his assigned unit, 0, to go berserk, but then to eventually shut down when depleting all its power. Seal is apprehensive about the unforeseen progression of the angel invasion, unlike Hyutsuki and Gendo, however, who have planned all of these events. The last scene shows Rei walking with the Spear of Longinus. More instances of Gendo's cold interaction with Shinji are shown, this time in front of his mother's headstone. Ritsuko warns Kaji that his covert investigation of Nerve could become dangerous, revealing that she is aware of his activities. Misato also knows about Kaji, thus catching him at gunpoint in Terminal Dogma, where he eventually shows her what he calls Adam, confusing to Misato as this creature does not look like what she saw during the second impact, and that it was actually located here beneath Nerve headquarters. The 12th angel, Lilil, appears directly above Nerve, this one without an AT field. During combat with Shinji, it engulfs his unit, something it's not able to do with the others. Inside, Shinji cannot get any readings on his instruments and has paranoid delusions where everyone he knows hates him. Eventually, he sees a ghost-like figure, at which time he's able to tear Unit 1 out of the angel's substance, killing it. Misato prevents the interrogation of Shinji by Seal, who desires detailed descriptions of the last battle. The members suspect that the angel was trying to communicate with humanity. Misato disagrees, as she saw no such evidence. Nerve's second branch in America, with its Unit 04 and thousands of people, disappears without explanation. Meanwhile, Gendo orders the dummy system to be implemented into Unit 0 and 02. Ritsuko declares the selected fourth child to Misato. The student chosen is a surprise to her. Asuka has a similar but more upset reaction at this information when discovering it by barging in on Kaji. Lastly, Unit 3 is being transported from Nerve's first branch, also located in the US. Unit 03 is being transported from the US to Matsushiro, Japan. Toji is its designated pilot, and after being installed at Nerve, the unit immediately goes berserk upon activation. It transforms into the 13th Angel Bardiel, trapping its pilot. An explosion occurs as a result of it leaving the facility. Bardiel makes its way to Tokyo 3 and easily defeats both Unit 0 and 02. Even without knowing that his classmate is in 03, Shinji refuses his father's order to destroy it, not wanting to kill anyone. Gendo orders the dummy system to take over, and under its control, Unit 1 decimates Bardiel and crushes the entry plug. Later, Shinji, though relieved that the pilot survived, is shocked to find out that it was Toji. Meanwhile, Misato and Ritsuko, who survived the explosion at the Matsushiro facilities, are rescued. Shinji, furious that it was Toji he was ordered to kill, is remotely incapacitated when he refuses to leave his unit, as he was threatening to retaliate. He later decides to leave the entire operation in Tokyo 3, running away again as his father describes it. At the train station, Misato reveals that all his classmates were potential EVA pilots. The 14th Angel Zeriel appears, immediately penetrating all of the layers above Nerve headquarters. Both Rei and the dummy system fail to work for Unit 01, and Asuka is defeated very close to Nerve. Meanwhile, near an emergency shelter, Kaji informs Shinji that the third impact will occur if Zeriel reaches Adam. Eventually, Shinji boards his unit and saves Nerve. But after running out of internal power, Unit 01 awakens, takes the S2 engine into itself, kills Zeriel, and begins consuming the creature while shedding its shell layers. According to Ritsuko, this casing is what enables Nerve to contain an EVA's true powers. Seal is further concerned about Gendo's handling of the operation since Unit 01 initiated the S2 engine. With its engine off, Unit 1 is immobilized. Shinji is trapped inside, and Ritsuko explains that he is in quantum form, an effect of the LCL inside, thus invisible. He has internal experiences about and with everyone in his life, and imagines several intense conversations against his father, including accusations of killing his mother. After failed attempts to rescue Shinji, the entry plug bursts open on its own without him. However, he does materialize later, immediately after having visions of his parents when pregnant with him. They discussed names, Shinji for a boy, and Rei if birthing a girl. Human DNA is inserted into Atom, an experiment which ultimately results in a mobile atom, the second impact, and its explosion. In the present, Seal declares to their kidnapped Fuyutsuki that Unit 1, now with the ability to initiate an S2 engine, cannot be allowed to become a god, and certainly not a god controlled by Gendo. Fuyutsuki is an university employee and meets Yui, Ikari, and Gendo. The effects of the second impact was grueling for all life on Earth. That year in Antarctica, Fuyutsuki meets Gendo, now married with her son Shinji, and a member of the suspicious SEAL organization. Fuyutsuki angrily tells Gendo he discovered that he and SEAL caused the second impact. Gendo responds by showing him Geofront being constructed. Naoko is involved in this operation, and both she and Gendo show him Unit 0's development, essentially another atom, or a god, and the Magi system. Fuyutsuki reveals to Yui that the Dead Sea Scrolls predict the third impact will occur in about a decade, and shares his misgivings about her part in an experiment as part of this operation, scheduled for the following year. It will be conducted by Gurhin, the predecessor to Nerve. The research trial is carried out, and as a result, Yui disappears. Naoko and Ritsuko complete the Magi computer system. Later, a young Rei repeats to Naoko insulting and offensive descriptions she overheard by Gendo about her, prompting her to strangle Rei. A gunfire shot is heard, resulting in Naoko's death. Back again in the present, Kaji covertly rescues Fuyutsuki and is later killed for this infraction against SEAL. That night, Misato is devastated as she listens to an earlier voice message from him, with implications that he knew about his upcoming fate. Asuka's sync rates are very low due to stress from being defeated by Zeriel and painful memories of her mother's suicide's death when she was a child. However, she launches Zero Two against orders to wait for Zero to confront the 15th Angel Ariel, who appeared in orbit directly above Geofront. It immediately shines a penetrating beam at Asuka, severely disabling her mentally, leaving her to experience nightmares and relive traumatic past events. Rei tries a shot with a sniper rifle with no positive results. Gendo orders Rei to procure the Spear of Longinus from Atom in Terminal Dogma and to launch it at the Angel. The attack is successful, leaving Asuka disappointed again, and with the spear now unreachable in orbit. Seal's grilling of Gendo for sending the spear into orbit is interrupted by Ar-Misael, the 16th Angel, with its unusual shape. It immediately begins to penetrate Unit 0 when it arrives for battle. Asuka's sync rate is so low that Unit 2 is inoperable. The Angel attempts the same tactic with 01, taking the form of Rei's desire to connect with Shinji, but is interrupted by Rei's sheer will. She kills the Angel by enabling a self-destruct, defying Misato's orders to eject herself, which would have allowed the Angel to defeat the Evas. Rei miraculously survives the explosion. Seal wants to interrogate her, but Gendo sends Ritsuko instead, who is humiliated. Armed with sensitive information sent to her by Kaji before death, Misato surprises Ritsuko beneath Nerve headquarters. Ritsuko shows her and Shinji failed initial attempts at Evas and then dummy plugs, which are soulless other versions of Rei. She destroys all of them after describing that the second impact was a punishment against humanity. A flashback scene where Asuka is running to tell her mother that she's been selected as a pilot only to find her dead from suicide. In the present, Asuka is paralyzed by depression and recovered by nerve agents. Gendo asks an incarcerated Ritsuko why she destroyed the dummy system to no avail. Seal selects the fifth child, Kaworu Nagisa, as a replacement for Asuka, who impressively syncs completely with 02 and eventually creates a friendship with Shinji. The members are counting on him to materialize their plans instead of Gendo, as they are generally unhappy with his management of this entire operation. Meanwhile, the commander speaks to 01, addressing it as his wife Yui. The destruction of only one more angel will make their wish come true. Adam's resurrected body exists inside of Gendo, as evidence in one hand, a fact Seal is aware of. Sometime later, without an entry plug, Kaworu initiates 02 and begins his way down to Adam. Shinji and his unit interrupt them and eventually incapacitates 02. Kaworu realizes that the being in Terminal Dogma is actually Lilith, not Adam, and asks Shinji to kill him, as remaining alive will eventually mean the destruction of humanity. After a long pause, Shinji obliges, saddened as Kaworu was the only person he ever connected with. Though warranted, Shinji is plagued for having to kill Kaworu, essentially the last angel. He then expresses his fears of being hated by everyone but enjoys the praise he receives from everyone when piloting Unit 01. Asuka, however, feels that no one needs her, especially since she can't pilot her unit. Rei contemplates that she is in possession of a false soul created by Gendo, that she's someone pretending to be human, but also the result of all the connections she's made with people. The instrumentality project begins to fill what is lacking in people, the loss in their hearts, giving rise to fear and insecurity, feelings that will never disappear if remaining human. Gendo describes that all human souls will become one and find eternal peace. Misato, as a child and as an adult, she is drained by maintaining a false perfect appearance. She was intimate with Kaji because he accepted her, but she saw parts of her father in him, which is why she ended their relationship. Asuka remembers her mother telling her father that if at one point she simply desired to stop being her mom, she could choose to do so. Other memories show her mom's delusions and then her suicide. Asuka hates everyone, and so she plans on living alone in spite of not really wanting that loneliness. Everything that has occurred here is part of Gendo's instrumentality project. Shinji's memories and what he feels become his truths, which actually is the annihilation of humanity. But this is only one of many possible outcomes of this event. The instrumentality process is still ongoing. Shinji is not afraid of ceasing to exist since he believes he is unwanted. This is a form of running away again, fear of failure, weakness, and not being loved, feelings that are actually present in all of humanity. The cure is the instrumentality project, which will unite everyone into one entity, ending the pain. Repeatedly, Shinji is being told that feelings of worthlessness and self-hatred are concepts he himself created. Here, his mother advises that only he can find his own worth. There is a difference between the person he thinks people see him as and reality. Shinji is then in a world filled with freedom. He's in a safe place without pain, but he's alone with nothing. He can't have a shape without being surrounded with other people and recognizing the differences he has with them. The first person to have this experience with is his mother. Shinji then experiences a much happier existence, one of many reality options available to him without the necessity of piloting an Eva. Both of his parents are together and he is in school with Asuka, a sociable Rei, Misato, and the rest of his class. Only Shinji perceives bad and unpleasant realities from his extremely narrow picture of the world he's been taught through truths that others have provided to him. Finally, he feels that he can learn to love himself, to be himself, and to be in a real existence instead of the emptiness. These thoughts shatter the darkness around him, replace it with his parents and everyone he knows, cheering him on with congratulations. All right. What's your impression of the show? What's your general reaction to it?
I mean, it felt kind of like basic at first, but it really did change a lot, and it kind of gave a lot around the end.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things that caused a lot of problems with the fans. One is when Kaworu was killed. If I believe I'm correct here, there was a minute of Unit 1 holding him, with his head sticking out, and it just sat there for a minute, and there was music going on, and that was the first thing that angered a lot of fans. I thought it was because they were trying to save on money, because I think what I saw online was that the members of SEAL, the bad guys, I don't know what episode. I'll have to look that up when I put this together. But I think it was episode 13. There were no longer men in like a dark boardroom. There were just these floating rectangles. I think they did that to save money. So when Kaworu was being held for a minute, my first thought was that maybe they did that for money, but maybe it's just some sort of artistic reason they did that. What'd you think about just sitting there watching that, waiting for something to happen? Did that bother you at all?
Nah, I don't know. It felt weird.
Yeah.
Like, it felt way longer than it actually was, but it felt kind of like both. I only learned they were struggling with money.
Okay.
So, like, after I finished so at first I thought it was like a artistic choice.
Yeah.
And I realized they do reuse a lot of scenes. There's an entire episode that is basically just the same scene playing over again.
Yeah, I mean the problem I always had with anime, and I had the problem with this one too when I first saw it in the 90s. I think all anime. I'm watching the cyberpunk one too right now, and because it's a bunch of different episodes, it's expensive, and so the animation is very kind of lacking. A lot of the animes that I've watched, there was, because we did a video on Ninja Scroll, and there was a anime for Ninja Scroll that was a series also, and so the animation is not very impressive because of that, and so they're under a budget, so that's why I didn't watch Evangelion when I first saw it. I thought it was a little boring, and I couldn't figure out why there was a penguin living with Misato and Shinji, and all that stuff, and I didn't realize until because I started watching the movies, because the movies have a lot of money put into it. I mean, the music alone is impressive, and the animation is amazing. So I was watching the movies and I was loving them, and I couldn't understand anything that was going on in there. And I can't remember if it was because I started this YouTube channel that I decided to watch the series so I could understand the entire story. But eventually I was like, okay, that's what happened. Okay, the Thrice Upon a Time came out, and that's the finale of the entire series. So I'm like, and I loved it. I loved it. I just didn't know what was going on, So I'm like, okay, well, as much as I hate the show, I'm gonna have to watch it. So I watched the show, and I was completely shocked on how brilliant it was. And so now the other question is, I do love the first episode that I love is I don't have the title of it in front of me, but it's the one where the angel is a virus that's trying to take over the Magi computer. And the reason I like that is because it reminds me of a movie called The Andromeda Strain that came out in the 60s, and that was a virus that came from outer space. So it was very creative. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they did that also because of money. Because if you have an angel that's just a virus, then you don't have to draw a new creature, and it saves on money. So, but in any case, so I think maybe that's also why episodes 25 and 26 were just cerebral, and by that I mean you didn't see any of the units, and at that point Kaworu was dead and Asuka was in severe depression, so Unit 2 was not even going to be in the picture anyway, but you didn't see any of the units, and all the angels were gone anyway, and it seemed like the entire 2 episodes just took place essentially just in Shinji's mind. And so not only did the fans not like that very much, but I think I'm correct here when I say there were death threats against Hideaki Anno, who's the writer and director. What did you think of the 2 episodes, the last one? Because for the most part, I mean, I think the instrumentality project is happening, but you don't see anything. You just see Shinji interacting with everybody.
I mean, like, when I first watched them, I didn't know they're like the 2 final episodes. So like at first I thought it was just some weird like interlude.
Yeah.
But,
oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you weren't even sure. You didn't even think there were events happening. It was just.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I only learned until after I finished End of Evangelion.
Okay. So then when you found out it was the end of the show, what did you think?
I thought it was really anticlimactic.
Yeah, there you go.
So it felt weird just ending there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think the fans are saying. I'm gonna go ahead and do some research about exactly what a lot of fans were saying. But yeah, there were death threats, and obviously people were not happy. And we won't go into it because we'll be here all night. But I think that's why Death and Rebirth was made, and Death and Rebirth, I don't know if you ever seen that or if you're planning on it. Why have you seen Death and Rebirth?
I have not.
Okay, I'm not even sure you should because they just took a bunch of clips from the shows and they put it together. There is some new material in it, but for the most part is just a rearranging of all of the clips from the show. Maybe it was done because they were planning on doing the end of Evangelion next, and that I guess is a new ending to the show. And that one, I'm gonna have to see what the fan response was to that, because the ending of that is not that great either, So, and then the first Evangelion film kind of redoes the entire show to a certain degree, with like an amazing amount of animation. But like I said, we shouldn't discuss that, else we'll be here all night. So okay, so the thing about Hideaki Anno's writing, and it really showed a lot in Thrice Upon a Time, the last movie, is and you cannot redo. Also, you're watching this stuff and it's beautifully animated, but it's like every time when I start watching the movies, and the TV show, it seems to be pretty self-explanatory, not completely, but for the most part. But for the movies, every time I was watching them, I had to pause it and then look up the information online. And thank God there's a million fan sites that explains everything, But so let's see. My first question. Okay. As far as I know, you go to church every Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now there's a lot of Christian and Catholic embolism. I hope that's the right word, but a lot of influence from the Catholic religion in Evangelion. I mean, it's obvious. But one thing that I did know is that the word magi, that is for the three that symbolized. That's the name of the three wise men, the team, I guess, the three wise men that came to Jesus' birth, and also Longinus, which is the name of the Lance of Longinus. You know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Longinus is the name of the Roman centurion. It was definitely a soldier, and what they used to do then, and this is kind of sickening, but what they used to do then, when because crucifying was not something they invented just for Jesus, it was a punishment they did for criminals, and because according to the story, Jesus was crucified in the middle of other two guys who were crucified, and what they did back then was to check to see if someone finally died, is they poked him with a spear. I guess they were trying to see, if you poke somebody in the ribs and they react, obviously it means they're still alive. I guess that's what the practice was. So the name of the centurion who did this to Jesus, his name was Longinus. I just found out that like a couple days ago when I spoke with Miguel. So yeah, so what's your do you find it offensive that they used all of this Catholic religious influence?
I don't really find it too offensive.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like too intrusive, or doesn't really like, I don't know, any really blasphemy or anything like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking for. So you're not very triggered by it at all?
No.
Okay. I kind of was a little bit when I saw the crucifix the first time I saw that. It's I guess it's without being offensive. I think it's just a ignorance, I guess, because for myself, I would know that if I did a story based on Japanese folklore, like the Japanese answer to like Frankenstein or something like that, or Dracula, I would not use anything that is connected to Japanese religion just because of out of respect. And I think I would do that even if I hadn't seen Evangelion, just to be safe, because I wouldn't want to offend anybody. But I think for some Japanese producers, that mentality doesn't exist, or doesn't exist yet culturally. I'm trying to not say anything offensive, but so the guy said, I do have I'll put the quote on the video once I put it together, but Hideaki Anno did say that at least in response to the cross, what he said was that nobody in the staff, the producing staff, was Catholic, and he just said that at least for the use of the cross, he said that it was just something cool, and that because when they did the show, they had no idea it was going to be big enough that it was going to be released in the West. So he said that if he knew that would have happened, they would have probably made a different decision. So that was his quote. But okay, so I have a few things that confused me about the show. Okay, so at least when Misato found Kaji in Terminal Dogma in front of Adam, okay, the good thing was there, she looked at it weird because she saw Adam in the second impact, and she realized that the thing called Adam in Terminal Dogma did not look like Adam at all. And I was surprised that the show didn't expand on that. And Kaworu was the only other person when he saw Lilith basically down there in episode 24. Yeah, that's when he got down there. He saw it, and it took him like a few moments before he realized that, okay, this is Lilith and not Adam. And I'm surprised that no one before then realized that it was Lilith. Did you find that to be a weird kind of event in a series?
I never really thought about it.
Okay.
Like, I really think it's like, why is Lilith there? That's the main thing.
Yeah, that was that's what I was just saying. How and why is she down there anyway? I mean, it's actually, I think I can answer that. That's because all of the angels were trying to get to Lilith to initiate the third impact. I'm trying to think. The instrumentality project is to combine everybody on Earth into one entity. And once I revisit the end of Evangelion, I think I'm correct here, but I think that's what happened. The instrumentality project happened. So that was Gendo's goal. And I'm a little confused exactly what, because the goal of Seal and the goal of Gendo and Fuyutsuki is different, a little different. But I think they're both aiming for their version of the instrumentality project. So now the angels were trying to get to Lilith to initiate the third impact. Their goal of the third impact. What do they want with that?
Well, as far as I know, in the show, it's just said that the third impact would destroy the world, or like end it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that's the reason why the angels are doing it. I don't think that's ever said either.
Let's see. Was there any character in the show that you preferred? Like, who was your favorite character on the show?
I mean, I guess my favorite was Asuka.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because most of the I guess most of the action scenes came around when she was on screen.
Okay. You didn't find that because they made her.
She was a little annoying.
Yeah, they made it overly aggressive, and the other problem with, like, because the first problem with the anime for me when it came out, like I said last time we spoke, was that the animation was a little lacking. I found it boring, and in spite of the fact that I love giant robots, I like it a lot. Anytime I'm writing a story for the comic books I work on, I try to come up with an excuse to have a giant in there because I like giant things. So even in spite of that, I just was not initially impressed by it. But Asuka was, she was overly aggressive, and then it's really depressing what happens with her. And okay, so that was the point I was getting into. There is so much emotion in these series, in the episodes and in the story, that I wasn't really ready for it. I think now that I'm older and I know more about myself and the kind of the depression that I fight with every day, I realize now how self-reflective, I guess, the writing is. It's very emotional, so it's a good thing that I watched it recently, because even if I tried watching the whole thing back in the 90s, I would have missed all of the points Hideaki Anno was trying to make. Now, at the beginning of the story, in the year 2000 in Antarctica, Adam is seen active. So how do you get from the giant size Adam and he's turned into an embryo? Because in the episode where Kaji first shows up, when they're on military boats and they get attacked by the angel there, Kaji leaves when Gahiel, which is the name of the angel in that episode, attacks, because Gahiel actually was after the embryo of Adam, because all the angels are trying to get to either Adam or Lilith. So how was Adam transformed into an embryo, put into a suitcase, and Kaji gets a hold of it, and then he gives that to Gendo? And how does Gendo take that and put that in his hand? Because do you remember how I think it was episode 24, I think. How do you, that's never explained how Gendo would be able to take an embryo of Adam and put that in his hand. Did you ever think about that at all on any level?
Like, I kind of forgot about like Adam, because like in the beginning, because just explain like I forgot about the whole like embryo part.
Okay.
Because like what the rest was happening in the show.
Yeah, it's hard. Because obviously I'm looking at this now and I'm putting everything together, so I'm going through all of the notes and the episodes, so I'm remembering everything. But yeah, it's a weird process from being a giant to an embryo and then into Gendo's hand. I cannot remember how it was. It was a little different in the manga, and I'll have to check that. But okay, so that's one thing. Okay, I'm gonna try to read all of this here. In episode 24, okay, the SEAL members declare that in order to transform humanity into the shape they believe is warranted, they can't count on the angels or Adam, so Unit 1 is the hope. So why did they send Kaoru to make their plans happen with Unit 02? So that's the question. At one point, SEAL was really disappointed with how Gendo was handling this operation, especially when the lance of Longinus was thrown into orbit. So how do you have any idea what Kaoru was supposed to do when he initiated Unit 2, and then they went down to Terminal Dogma in front of what was supposed to be Adam but is Lilith? What was he supposed to do down there? Like, I guess he was supposed to start the instrumentality project, but how would he even do that? Do you have any idea?
I mean, I assume Kaoru is like, I assume he like went AWOL at that point, because like as far as I know, the SEAL didn't know he was an angel yet.
Yeah,
so I assume
that's another thing that was scratching my head too. That made me scratch my head is because he says a lot of stuff down there. Okay, so Kaoru says that he's like an Eva, since he was also born from Adam. So so that's one thing he says, and then he would be able to merge with them, but he can't because they have souls. So he's saying he would be able to merge with an Eva. He would like to, but they can't because they have souls. So according to what he says, Evas are so much like humans, they have souls. And apparently, I think one thing we know for sure is that Shinji's mother is inside Yui, because one of my favorite episodes, because the one with the virus for an angel is my favorite episode. The next one is the one where they show a lot of events from the past, and in that one they don't show this, but they just describe it. But they're doing an experiment, and Yui disappears, and we know that she is inside Unit 1 because in the first or second episode, an angel attacks Nerve, and debris starts falling down, and without any initiation, Unit 1 protects Shinji from falling debris, and the reason that happens is because his mother's inside there, and yeah, in episode 25, I think it's 25, I'll check again, but when you see Gandalf's hand with Adam inside of it, Gandalf is standing in front of Unit 1, and he addresses it, and he says, Yui, which is his dead wife, and he says, one more angel needs to be killed, and then our dream will come to life. So it could not be, I don't think it was 24. Oh yeah, it might have been 24, because he says one more angel needs to be killed, and that's Kaworu, basically. Okay. So, so now the other thing Kaworu says, okay, he says, but I thought Evas were human, and also he kept referring to humans as Lilim, and he says that clearly, saying that he's not human. So, okay, so you believe, what did you say you thought Kaworu was exactly?
I thought he was kind of like a clone, like Rey.
Yeah, so he's not human. Okay,
yeah.
and that could be an entire, probably an entire series, like the clear beginnings of Rey and Kaworu. Although it is explained that Rey is a soulless, basically a clone, basically. So, but anyway, it seems a little sudden because I'm glad that at the end Shinji started to get self-confidence. He was feeling really good, and everybody in his life, including his parents, started cheering him on and clapping. And hopefully you'll watch the whole video, because the first half of the video is me doing an explanation of what happens in every episode. So I try to keep it short, like at this short summaries of all of them. So at the very last part of 26, everything starts to feel good for Shinji, and this is after he has kind of a vision of what life could be like without the Evas and the angels. Like he's going to school with Asuka, and of course Asuka is still belligerent, but Rey is actually very friendly and has an active personality, which is kind of a weird thing to see. And then Misato comes in and starts teaching class, and everybody's getting along, and Toji is there too. For most of the 20 of both of those episodes, he's always down on himself, and he's depressed, and he wants to run away from life and from dealing with people. And right before he gets to be happy, he's still saying really negative things about himself. And then all of a sudden, it's he's happy and everything is fine. And I thought that was too sudden. I mean, do you recall that at all, or am I being too obscure? Like, do you remember that part of the episode?
Yeah, I remember it, because like he was being very like judgmental on himself.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like in many, few franchises like Alien, and there's other things that I can't think of for a good example, but Alien is a really good example, because what they did with Alien in kind of a little bit in Prometheus, but they definitely did in Alien Covenant. But Prometheus and Alien Covenant are movies that are supposed to be technically before then. And one of the scary things about the alien is like you really didn't know where it came from. So now they explained it, and it's a really bad explanation. And so much so that, like, because a lot of these movies, when they come out, they actually have a writer make a book of it, and in the book they explain more things. So in the book they changed some things from the movie because the fans were so upset about what happened in the movie, the questions I have about Evangelion, I'm not quite even sure I want the answers to them, because I don't trust, as much as I love Hideaki Anno's writing, I don't think I'd like him to answer these questions, So, but some of the questions are, for one thing, unless I missed it, the angels that come in and try to make contact with Lilith, where are they coming from? Do you have any idea?
I guess like most of the time they just sort of appear.
Exactly. So there's no real, yeah. Okay, so there's that, and then two, in Antarctica in the year 2000, they tried to put human DNA into Adam. That was some ridiculous experiment that they did. So one of the things that was done also is the removal of the spear of Longinus. Now, when you do that to an angel, it becomes active. And also, something you may not know is that the creatures that sent out these angels, whether it was Adam or Lilith, they were not supposed to have both of them on one planet at the same time. So it was an accident that both of them were on our planet. But in any case, in the year 2000, Adam was made active and started walking around, if you remember that. So where has he been this whole time? Because so he's been shrunk down into an embryo, and he's in Gandalf's hand. So until Kaji has him in an embryo in that suitcase, God knows where he was between Antarctica and the briefcase. Do you have any idea? Do you have any fan theories as to what happened to Adam between that time, that whole period?
I guess, so first I believe after like stopped him from doing that, they would maybe they like cut him up, I guess.
Yeah,
because I assume.
How would you even do that? It's a giant and it's glowing white. It's pretty crazy. But okay, so when the angel was in orbit and Gandalf told Rey to take the spear of Longinus out of Lilith and throw it at the angel, because the weapons that we were shooting at it was not working. For one thing, this is where most of Asuka's problems started, because from orbit the angel put a beam of light against Asuka, and she was completely immobilized and paralyzed. So then Rey took a shot at it with a rifle that didn't do anything. So then Gandalf's like, take the spear of Longinus from Adam, which is actually Lilith. Now when she took the spear out, the bottom part of Lilith just like there were more organs popped out and stuff. I don't know what that was about. That was never explained. But okay, so that's one thing. And then
I guess the spear was just kind of holding it in.
Well, that's just it though. The spear, when you take out a spear from a god, which is this one, Lilith, it's become active. So when that happened with Adam got up and started walking, and then there was a big explosion, which was the second impact. Now, how come that didn't happen with Lilith? She took out the spear, and the only thing that happened was more organs came down, and it looks really disturbing, by the way. But anyway, so that was that, and then that's my last question. And actually the very last one is, and this is way too obscure, and I don't think you're gonna remember this, but okay, the company that was that existed before it became Nerve was Gurhin, and the head of that was Chairman Keel Lawrence, and I'm surprised he was nowhere in the entire series, because this guy is probably more powerful than all the members of SEAL, and I'm surprised he was nowhere in the show. But do you remember that guy at all?
No,
that's too obscure.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't even remember there was a company before Nerve.
Okay, all right then. Thanks for entertaining me with all of these questions and your answers and stuff. I'm gonna call it a night here. Okay, so I'm gonna say goodnight. You want to say goodnight?
Yeah, good night.